Okay, so last video I showed you guys all of my terrariums.
Well, actually not all my terrariums. I showed you guys all the terrariums I currently have. I've made quite a few more in the past, which I guess I'll show on screen right now.
Yeah, that's every other terrarium I've made. Now, in today's video, we're going to be revamping this terrarium, which had some issues, as you can see. Yeah, basically, we're going to be taking this whole thing apart and making it a beautiful, self-enclosed, no-maintenance terrarium, much like this one. Now, one thing I will say at the start of this video is this terrarium is going to be completely built in this video, but it will not be sealed, simply because the cork I have available is the same as this one, and it's too small. So I'll probably just wait for someone to open a wine bottle in the house, and then just use that. But yeah, so let's get right into it. Now, when starting a terrarium, I think there's two major things you want to decide. The first is open or enclosed. This will basically determine what you're going to put in the terrarium and how you're going to go about decorating it. Now this one's going to be enclosed, so I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff in there, hope it all grows out. But if you do want to do maintenance on it or keep it open top, I definitely recommend making a better selection of your plants and positioning everything to look nice. What's also important is, I'd say with jars, if you're doing like mason jars, is deciding the positioning. Now, if you have a lid, obviously you can put it on its side. However, I'd recommend doing this with bigger ones, even bigger than this, with a bit more of a kind of arch to them, because that way you can layer dirt and rocks, which I didn't layer any rocks in this one, which is why the drainage is bad, and I think that's why the mold started. But yeah, we'll get into all that now. So what I'm going to do first is actually go outside and gather a few plants. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you guys something else. Now, the next thing I like to do is have some little tools available. So I have all these tweezers that will help in planting the plants. This is especially important when you have a small opening like this. And also, I'd recommend having a brush. It doesn't have to be, these are specific terrarium tools, but you don't need a brush like this. You just need something so that you can wipe off any dirt or like excess grossness that gets on the glass. These are big tweezers. They're not going to help for this one because they barely fit. And this little shovel is great for collecting dirt to put into the terrarium. But yeah, you don't need any of these tools. I've built several of these with just my hands. Basically, the more open, if you have like an opening big like this, you can do it with just your hands. However, if it's like deeper or like you need to get farther back or it's a small opening like these two, I would definitely recommend using some tweezers. And if you want to make a decorative one through a smaller opening, such as what I originally tried with this one, I definitely recommend getting some tweezers. All right, so the first step to this terrarium is going to be getting out everything that's currently inside of it. So I'm going to go outside and do that. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is salvage as much moss as possible, and I have this little moss patch outside where I try to propagate my own moss. So what I'm going to be doing is actually placing the majority of the moss just back here and seeing if it can, anchor itself and regrow. Now, this isn't always possible with these small opening ones because pretty much everything you pull out is going to get broken a little bit. So yeah, I'm just going to be chucking all this stuff kind of over to this corner, and it can be compost or it'll start a new life, or some bugs will make it their home. But yeah, some of these pieces aren't actually in that bad condition, but we'll just huck them down and yeah, get into this. So yeah, I'm gonna do the rest of this kind of off camera because it's a bit easier to do, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, so now I've removed all the moss and there's just a bit of dirt left in here, so I'm gonna rinse this out with a bit of water and hopefully salvage all these rocks because they are very nice and I like to use them. Guess we'll use the hose. Where's the hose? The hose is hooked up to a sprinkler. I guess we can use this watering can. No, that is too full. Well, I guess we can just perfect. Okay, my trick here is basically just pouring all the rocks here into my hand along with the dirt, and then just sort of salvaging the rocks in this little pile here. And yeah, this is gonna take me a bit, but I should be done not too slowly. I don't really know. Okay, so there's all the rocks removed. Now I'm going to take these upstairs and rinse them off and rinse out the container.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm rinsing off the rocks in the sink now, which is a lot more effective than dipping them in the watering can. And yeah, we'll be adding the clean rocks into the jar. You don't really have to clean them off if they're dirty, but I just like to have like a clean little drainage layer. So yeah, I'll be doing that. Okay, here you can watch me just put stones into the vessel. There's nothing really interesting here. Okay, here I'm getting a little bag of charcoal that came in that terrarium kit. Now, what I'm going to be doing with this is putting a thin layer above the stones. And this basically just acts like a little purification thing. It'll help combat mold and just keep the terrarium, working all well. If you want, you can also introduce a springtails into the terrarium. However, I don't have a culture and I don't really feel like finding any, so I haven't done that as of yet, but perhaps I'll do it at some point. If you want to learn more about springtails and just like isopods and stuff like that, I'd recommend Serpa Design. He does terrarium videos as well. Definitely check him out. And yeah. Here I'm just using the brush to kind of pat down the charcoal here, or the carbon. You could do this with just about anything. I just felt like using the paintbrush because I could also wipe some off the edges and stuff. All right, now I'm going to take some dirt from the garden using the little shovel tool I showed earlier and put this in the terrarium. Okay, as you can see here, I've now got the dirt into the terrarium, and I'm just going to be using the other end of the shovel to kind of pat it down to make sure it's a nice flat surface. You could make like hills and stuff if you really wanted to, but I find in these smaller terrariums, it just looks better if you don't. Now, for plant life, I usually just go to this little moss patch I have in the backyard, or I just kind of look around my garden or, the forest near my house for plants, and you can really find all your plants for no money at all. So here I'm just collecting some various moss patches that I had, and yeah, I'll see you guys with all the plants I collected in just a second. Alright, here's all the moss I found. Unfortunately, I don't know the species because I just found in my backyard, but it's all good stuff. And yeah, now it's time to start building the terrarium. Alright, so the very last step here is just getting the squirt bottle and hydrating the heck out of this thing, and then, yeah, you'll see how nice it looks on screen right now. And yeah, that's it. So if you guys want to see me do another terrarium, let me know, and yeah, that's about it. See you guys in the next one.